Coming up today, ending months of arduous negotiations, a deal is struck on reforming Korea's labour market. The move will make it easier for firms to fire underperforming workers and change employees' contracts. Slowing growth in China is dragging on the global economy, with dozens of key economies posting negative growth in the first half of the year. Korea is feeling the heat as well. Plus, 18-year-old Lydia Ko shoots a final round 63 to win the Evian Championship and become the youngest major champion in history. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Monday, the 14th of September. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. And we start with the news that a tentative deal on overhauling Korea's rigid labour market has been struck. Representatives from Labour, management and government hammered out a compromise at a meeting on Sunday, ending months of tense negotiations. For details on the agreement, we turn to our Kim Min-ji.
Despite dismissals being a key dispute, the Tripartite Committee agreed in principle that companies should be allowed to sack poorly performing workers. But this is under the condition that the criteria and procedures must be worked out between experts in labor and management before any workers are laid off. Labor law currently stipulates that companies can terminate an employee's contract if they are involved in a corruption or an embezzlement case. As it stands, companies in serious financial difficulty are also able to dismiss underperforming workers.
The three sides have decided to implement a fair assessment system and will decide on the conclusion and termination of contracts based on laws and legal precedents.
The three sides also agreed to ease labor restrictions that require companies to gain an employee's consent before changing the terms of their employment. The government has said the easing of regulations was a necessary step to get private companies to implement a wage peak system, which will guarantee employment until retirement, but with lower wages after a specific age. The representatives agreed that such processes will come after negotiations between labor and management, and that the deal would prevent the government from unilaterally pushing ahead with reform. The agreement now awaits approval from the Federation of Korean Trade Unions to take effect. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
And the ruling Saenuri party and the government have agreed to propose new labour market reform bills by Wednesday. The move comes after Sunday's agreement to ease labour restrictions through a tripartite committee involving labour, management and government representatives, as we just heard. The ruling party hailed the deal and promised to push ahead with legislating the government's labour reform plans. However, the main opposition, New Politics Alliance for Democracy, said that although the agreement laid the groundwork, it was extremely regretful the committee left out measures to shorten working hours and protect temporary workers. Now, in a major reshuffle, Korea's Defense Ministry has named Army General Lee Sun-jin as the new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff on this Monday. The 61-year-old is a graduate of the Army Academy in Yeongcheon, Gyeongsangbuk-do Province, and was commander of ROK 2nd Operations Command. Army General Jang Jung-gyu has been named Army Chief of Staff. Army General Kim Hyun-jib has been named Deputy Commander of Combined Forces Command, and Air Force Lieutenant General Jong Kyung-do will be promoted to Air Force Chief of Staff. Now, the market value of Korea's 10 biggest conglomerates fell this year despite a rise in the total value of the local market. The Korea Exchange says the combined value of the nation's top 10 groups was $552 billion as of last Thursday, down 9% from last year. The sharp decline was driven by 6 of the 10 business groups. The value of Samsung Group, Korea's largest conglomerate, tumbled over 12%. Listed affiliates of steelmaker POSCO posted the biggest drop at nearly 30%. The total market value of Korea's main bourse, the benchmark Kospi, gained nearly 3% over the same period, with the rise in market cap of small and mid-cap stocks. Now, increased tax revenues from cigarettes are expected to rise to $10 $0.6 billion next year, and that is a $1.27 billion increase on this year's revenue. An opposition party lawmaker presented data from the Korea Federation of Taxpayers on Monday, and he said that the total tax on tobacco for 2015 will be $9.4 billion. In 2016, it will be $10.6 billion. Compared to the tax index before cigarette prices increased in 2014, next year's increase is $4.9 billion. On top of this, the Taxpayers Federation said the government had only considered the price increase would produce a 34% increase in consumption, whereas in the past 3 months, the decrease was just 23%. The world economy is suffering from the effects of the slowdown in China. Tumbling raw material prices and global trade volume have caused a number of leading economies to contract over the past several months. And Korea is not immune, as our Han-Dan reports.
Is the world economy facing yet another economic recession? According to Bloomberg and other major global market indices, 6 nations, including Brazil, Canada, Japan, and Russia, posted minus growth during the first and second quarter of this year. By region, the growth rate in Central and South America posted minus 0.1% and minus 1.1% in the first and second quarter, respectively. Eastern Europe posted growth of minus 0.5% in the second quarter. The EMEA, namely Europe, the Middle East and African region, showed minus 0.2% growth. Last month, Moody's cut its 2015 growth forecast of G20 economies from 3.1 to 2.8%, while the International Monetary Fund has lowered its global growth forecast from 3.5% to 3.3%. The sluggish growth mainly stems from the contraction of global exports on the back of China's economic slowdown. It's so bad that the export volume of 67 major economies has plunged to the lowest level since the global financial crisis in 2008. And this is worrying news for Korea, as the exports remain the country's strongest growth engine. Experts warn Korea's financial markets could also tumble due to capital outflow. Sluggish global growth is leading to widespread credit rating downgrades as well. Standard & Poor's has downgraded Brazil to junk status, while Moody's cut Russia's rating to Ba1, a level considered junk, earlier this year. Fitch Ratings downgraded Japan's credit rating 1 notch from A+ to A in April. The ratings for major resource exporters in Africa, including Ghana, Angola, and Congo, have also been cut. Han-Dan, Arirang News.
The global smart TV market is posting rapid sales growth, and this is great news for Korea's Samsung Electronics and LG Electronics that are blazing a trail as market leaders. According to market tracker Display Search, over 40 million smart TVs were sold worldwide in the first half of this year, accounting for 41% of total TV sales and surpassing the 40 million mark for the first time. And this is much better than last year. Only around 35 million smart TVs were sold worldwide for the whole of that 12-month period. TV sales in general, though, have been falling since 2009, but sales of smart TVs have been seeing annual growth of over 13% since 2013. Demand for smart TVs in the past 2 years has been especially high in the Americas, with a 90% increase in sales in South America and an almost 70% increase in North America. Last year, Samsung and LG were the top 2 manufacturers of regular and smart TVs sold worldwide. 18-year-old golfer Lydia Ko has won the Evian Championship to become the youngest major champion ever. An amazing final round of 63 on Sunday saw the Korean-born New Zealander finish on 16 under, 6 shots clear of American Lexi Thompson. Ko becomes the youngest player of either gender in the modern era to become a major champion. Now, her victory also means Korea's Park In-bi, the world #1, will have to wait at least another year to complete her Super Korea Grand Slam. Park, who has won 2 majors this season, ended at 5 under, tying for 8th place with 2 other Korean golfers. Germany's open borders have been shut, at least temporarily. The country has suspended all train traffic from Austria, warning it has now reached its limit for taking in any more refugees. Our Son Jung-in has this report.
This is Munich train station, which has become a key arrivals point for refugees making their way to Germany from Syria via Hungary and Austria. Refugees breathe a sigh of relief to know they have arrived safely. At least 50,000 asylum seekers have entered the country in the last week alone after Chancellor Angela Merkel effectively opened Germany's borders. But now Germany says it has reached the upper limit of its capacity. The country's interior minister made the announcement on Sunday. He said Berlin was introducing temporary border controls to limit the huge wave of refugees, starting with its southern border with Austria.
The aim of these measures is to limit the current inflows to Germany and to return to orderly procedures when people enter the country. This is necessary for security reasons.
In a parallel move, Germany's national railway temporarily suspended train traffic to and from Austria between Sunday afternoon and Monday morning local time. The European Union is still at odds on a common response to the migrant crisis. Eastern countries, including the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and Slovakia, have repeatedly ruled out accepting refugees under a compulsory quota system outlined by the European Commission. Interior ministers from the 28 member states are meeting in Brussels on Monday afternoon to discuss plans to redistribute 120,000 people seeking asylum throughout the continent. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's manufacturing sector appears to be at growing risk to cheap Chinese products that are gradually becoming better in terms of quality, and profitability is down sharply and is now, in fact, lower than during the 2008 global financial crisis. Connie Kim reports.
Coming on the back of global economic slowdown and union conflict, Korea's manufacturing sector is on red alert. According to related industry reports on Monday, Korea's profitability among its top 30 large groups logged $48.9 billion last year, lower than the $51.1 billion recorded during the 2008 global financial crisis. The poor report card is partly due to sluggish performance in China, Korea's main target market. Hyundai Motor Group maintained an average 10% market share last year, but this started dropping in May. This is mainly because Chinese local auto brands slashed prices while at the same time improving quality. Korea's tech giant Samsung Electronics also lost to its Chinese competitors in China in the second quarter this year. China's Xiaomi and Huawei took more than a third of the Chinese market, while Samsung held just 9% of the Chinese market. Domestic conditions aren't helping the manufacturing sector either. Unionized workers at Hyundai Motor Corporation voted to strike this month, lending support to their leaders in wage negotiations. If the strike goes ahead, it'll be the fourth consecutive year of such strikes going ahead. Kumho Tire's management and labor unions, which are at loggerheads regarding wage issues, has been affected by strikes over a month. Loss from the strike at Kumho is estimated to exceed $100 million. Experts say Korea is sandwiched between the foreign market and labor management conflict. There are growing calls for compromise between the two to provide a flexible labor market and allow corporate expansion in investment and employment. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's Thanksgiving holiday Chuseok is less than 2 weeks away, and gift set sales are already in full swing at the nation's major retailers. Now, normally dried fish is a go-to gift for the holiday, but lobster is becoming more and more popular. Korea's biggest hypermarket chain, E-Mart, says it has doubled its lobster inventory compared to last Chuseok, stocking around 2,000 sets. Now, each set contains 2.3 kilograms of Canadian lobster and costs around $100 US. E-Mart adds that annual sales of lobster, king crab and snow crab spiked by a combined 40% between 2012 and last year. The sudden increase means sales are now only slightly behind dried yellow corvine, the fish traditionally given as a Chuseok gift. Now, did you know that Korea is one of the breakdance capitals of the world? On Sunday, Seoul hosted an international breakdance competition, bringing together 8 of the best Bboy teams in the world. Kwon Jang-ho has the details.
Welcome to the R16 World Bboy Championships. It's held in Korea every year, and it's one of the top Bboy competitions in the world. This is Team Korea, and they are warming up for the big event. They reached this year's World Finals by beating all before them in Korea's national eliminations. That's no mean feat. Korea has one of the most competitive breakdance scenes in the world. Over the last 13 years, 18 of 32 major world crew titles have been won by a Korean team. This success has brought them unprecedented support from the government. In fact, R16's main sponsor is the Korea Tourism Organization.
We wanted to show the world that Korea has a modern and dynamic youth culture. There were national qualifiers in 25 countries. It was a useful opportunity to show a new side of Korean culture.
The Korean b-boy scene has come a long way since the turn of the century, when performers were largely looked down upon by Korean society.
When we first started to win international competitions, we would still proudly wave the Korean flag. B-boying has now found its place among Korea's Hallyu content, and it's well regarded among the wider public.
Team Korea won the performance section of the competition, but in the main battle event, they were beaten in the semi-final stage by the home nation of b-boying, Team USA.
Although Team Korea did not win this year's main R16 title, Korean b-boys can still be proud of their immense achievements over the last decade. And there's always next year. Won Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Well, with that, those are stories we have for you on this Monday afternoon here in Seoul. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website, arirang.com. Have a great day. Goodbye.